LeetCode problem number 91, decode ways. So this problem gives us a message containing letters from A to Z that can be encoded into numbers using the following mapping. So here A is 1, B is 2, C is 3 until we hit Z, which is 26. So decode the encoded message. All the numbers should be grouped and then mapped into letters using the reverse of the mapping above, right? So for example, here it gives us an example 11106, which can be mapped into these characters AAJF and KJF, right, with the following 1110.6 and 1110.6. Now the reason why we can't group it to 11106 is because 06 can't be mapped into F, since here it explains that 6 is different from 06, meaning that when we encounter a 0, we shouldn't just ignore it, and we can't treat it as a spacing number in a way how we would treat numbers normally lah. So the goal is to return the number of ways to decode it. So here I have a solution. My approach was to use dynamic programming. And here, first of all, I check whether or not the string was empty. If it is, I will just return 0. And here I have the current ways I have stored, which will keep track of the current ways that basically this is what we are going to be returning basically. Right? This is what we will be incrementing to return it, and it will store the total number of ways we can decode the string. So here current way equals to 1, previous ways was the one, it's basically the previous number of ways we can decode it right before we hit the current wave. Right now it's just empty, but later on it will be used up basically. And then we have the length, which is going to be 5 using this example here. Here I have a for loop which starts at the back of the string. So we are starting at the back. So I is equals to 5 minus 1, which is 4. And we are iterating through from back to front or right to left. So here I have a variable called the ways at the current position. So this basically will keep track of, at my current position, how many ways can I decrypt this character, for example. So here, since the current position is not a 0, so I'll just map it to the current ways, which is 1. Right. In a way, we know that 6 can be decoded only one way, which is to 6 itself. Right. So here, this if statement basically checks if I am looking at a double digits like 11 or 10. Right. Since I'm not, since we are looking at 6 only, we can just ignore this. And here we will update the previous ways into the current ways, which is going to be previous equals to current, which is 1. Current will equals to ways at current position, which is 1 as well. Basically, current ways did not change at all, right? Because we already know that there's only one way to decode this. Okay, now I will decrement over here, and we check ways at current position again, right? And notice how we now are now at a 0 character, meaning that there's no way for us to decode this because 0 is not a valid character. So here, ways at current position will be 0. Again, this if statement will be ignored since the 0 is not a double digit. And we update previous ways to current ways. So we don't need to change much. Current ways into ways at current position, which is 0. Okay, so currently we have no ways to decode this current character we are at, which is 0. I will decrement again. So now we're looking at 1 or 10, right? So ways at current position is current ways again, which is 0. It will stay at 0. Now this if statement will trigger because I is now 1, and ways at our current position plus the previous ways, which is 1, and previous ways will become current ways, 0, and the current way will become ways at current position, which is 1, right? Meaning that there is one way to decode this, which is 10, right? There's only one way to decode 10, which is the character 10 itself. I will decrement once more. We check our ways at current position. Since we are looking at another one, so ways at current position will equals to current ways, which is 1. We don't need to change that. This if statement will trigger since these two numbers can be they can be a character itself, right? Character 11. So ways at current position will increment previous way, but since previously there was no way for us to decrypt it, so basically it will not increment anything. Previous way will equals to current ways, this one, and current ways will equals to ways at current position, which is 1 as well. Okay, now lastly, I will decrement to 0, which is at our first character. So here, this will not change anything because current ways or ways at current position is already 1. This statement will trigger since this can be decoded as 11. Ways at current position will increment the previous way, right? 1, which was the previous way we can decode this. And previous way equals to current ways. Current ways will now equals to ways at the current position. 2. And once we are done with that, the folder will exit and we return current ways, in which you can see we have 2, right? Which was the total number we can decode 11106 into, right? Okay, alright. So that's how I managed to solve this problem using dynamic programming. In a way, that's all I have to show. Thanks.